Welcome back to The Truth is Viral. My name is Bob Powell, and in this episode we're going to speak with Chief Mark Kessler. He's the chief of the Gilberton, Pennsylvania Police Department. And in this episode you'll see the beginnings, the germs, the seed of an idea to take a march to Washington D.C. and shove the truth right down the throats of our elected legislators, because they aren't paying attention to our phone calls. They aren't paying attention to our emails. So we need to get in their face and let them know exactly how we feel. Now, I've said before that I don't agree with anybody 100%. And in this episode, during this interview, you're going to hear Chief Kessler say some pretty nasty things about Detective Mike Zullo of Sheriff Arpaio's cold case posse. Now, I don't share those personal feelings. The cold case posse has done tremendous work. And even Chief Kessler has admitted that it was their work that he saw at the Constitutional Sheriff and Peace Officers Association that got him so fired up about, helping to change our government, get it back on track. Now, personally, I don't have any stake in their spat, because I don't know the cold case posse. I've worked with Carl Gallups of P.P. Simmons, who has worked extensively with the cold case posse, and I trust his judgment. Carl's a good friend of mine. He's a good Christian, and if he says that the cold case posse is good, well, I'm good with that assessment. Okay, so what I'm hoping to do is, when we start this march on Washington, D.C. on September 9th, between now and then, I'm hoping to serve as a bridge between these separate groups of patriots. Not just Mark Kessler and the cold case posse, but other groups as well. Because we all have one goal in common, and that goal cannot be derailed by personal feelings. That goal is to remove Barack Hussein Obama from the office of President of the United States. So check out this interview with Chief Mark Kessler of the Gilberton, Pennsylvania Police Department. When it's over, I'll be back to give you the latest update on what we plan to do in Washington, D.C. on September 9th. Okay, Chief, now it's no secret that I stomped on Adam Kokesh's nuts for doing something very similar to what you're planning to do.
Bob's out there doing a bang-up job on his website, on his videos, and everyone needs to pay attention to what he's doing, because it's worth his insight is worth reviewing. When
I first tried to get a hold of you, I understand you're a very busy man, and you didn't personally see my messages, but I did leave a message, and it eventually got to the point where it looked like you were avoiding me, because my messages were getting deleted. And
you almost caused a full-out riot on Facebook.
Yeah, well, that happens. And I was starting to get a little ticked off there, and I said that if a sworn law enforcement officer does what Adam Kokesh was planning to do, boy, there's my next nut stomping target. But but since then, you and I have had a chance to talk. And
I finally got back to your emails. Yeah. I don't check my emails every day. Once I finally got your emails, I'm thinking, well, okay, we chatted for a little bit back and forth on emails, and we spoke on the phone. I'm thinking, this guy's all right. He's just like me. You're just like me, brother. That's it. I don't hold no punches.
Yeah, I'm pretty much of the same opinion, my friend. And so now we come to a very interesting crossroads, because I think it's fairly obvious by now to anybody that's paying attention that this government is beyond corrupt.
It's beyond repair.
And something has to be done. And I'm not going to entrust my safety, the safety of my family, and the safety of my friends and neighbors to somebody that's going to go out and blaze up on his bong just before he leads an armed march on Washington, D.C.
The final American Revolution. See you next Independence Day.
But you are a sworn law enforcement officer, a chief of police, and by definition, that is a job that holds tremendous responsibility, and you're trusted, obviously, by the people in your community to protect their rights, even if the aggressor is the federal government. So, you know, that holds a certain appeal to me, because I've always been a great supporter of law enforcement. When before I joined the Marine Corps, after I graduated from high school when I was 15, so I spent the first year in junior college taking criminal law. I wanted to go to the police academy and be a police officer, and then the Marine Corps called, and then that was that. But you know, I've always been a great supporter of law enforcement and a great supporter of the United States Constitution. So
I tell you one thing, brother,
really
I don't put on. I will not. I don't trust my government. I really don't. After all this, and this is going back way before my time, probably way before your time, brother. You know, how can you give up a little bit of freedoms for a little bit of safety? That's how they've been chipping away and chipping away and chipping away. That's where we're at today.
It's the boiling frog syndrome, and you know, they've been doing it from multiple angles, especially attacking people of faith, except Muslims. Of course, Muslims get preferred treatment. But you know, back in the 60s, they took God out of high school. And when Sandy Hook happened, all the atheists come out of the woodwork and they say, well, where was your God? And my only reply is, you kicked him out of school. So now we've got an entire generation of kids growing up that know nothing except Xbox games and garbage. You know, they don't even go out to play anymore as kids. And if they do, if they take a little toy gun outside with them, heaven forbid, here comes the SWAT team.
They almost arrested my son. Let me tell you this story, brother. They almost arrested my son probably 2-3 months ago for carrying a air rifle under the age of 18. They were going to arrest him. And they finally backed off because the outcry from the public, and thank God, it was overwhelming.
Right.
I mean, I actually had to calm people down. There was a militia group from down south, 3,000 of them. They were coming up to the state police barracks. I'm like, wait a minute, guys, like this was getting serious here. You know, like they were coming up.
All callers are muted and may unmute themselves by pressing *6.
They were coming up and they meant business. So I'm like, listen, I got my attorney, the whole 9 yards, and we worked it out. And finally, they just recently came out and said, "Hey, we're not going to go. We're not going to arrest your kid for
I won't put
carrying
any patience or
air
anybody that
rifle."
works here on
just wanted to
camera.
confirm. So. Okay, thanks.
Okay, I'm sorry that I got interrupted there. One of the hospital staff came and wondered why I was broadcasting live from the hospital. But you know, they're okay as long as I don't put any patients or staff members in. Then they're good with it.
Well, I hope your wife. I hope your wife is feeling better, brother. And I feel your pain on that because my grandmother, 2 of my grandmothers actually went through the same treatment, and one is still going through the treatment. She has lung cancer.
Yeah.
So I understand your pain on that.
Well, it's definitely rough, and I'd appreciate it if everybody that hears my voice right now would say a prayer for my wife. She's sitting right there, getting her chemo, and it's hard. I mean, it's not just hard emotionally, but it's physically taxing, and she's having a really hard time with this. So
you got to take that one day at a time, and man, my grandfather, he died from he passed away from cancer, but he refused treatment. He fought. My grandfather fought in World War II, and he fought in the Battle of the Bulge. You know, he spent 2 years in a Nazi prison camp, and he was a tough egg, let me tell you. And when he was diagnosed, he refused treatment. He refused it, and he just waited it out, and until he passed. So
that's ballsy.
Yeah, I mean, if the call-in number for all those that are listening is 218-862-9829.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, Chief. Let me tell you something. The reason that I'm here at this hospital with my wife is number one, I'm not going to leave her, not for a minute while she's going through this. Number two, I'm doing this because it's that important. I should be being with her all the time. I should be spending time with my grandkids. I should be fishing. But instead, I've got to fight a tyrannical government, something that I never thought that I would have to do.
All right, brother.
And it pisses me off. And I'm glad that I've got people like you on my side, because, brother, you got some balls on you. You really do. And as long as, you know, we do this the right way, I think that we can make a difference. I'm praying that we can make a difference, because, you know, I understand that not all of your listeners or mine subscribe to my Christian point of view, but you know, whether you do or not, you've got to realize that a tyranny is descending on this country. I view it as a satanic tyranny. And you know, in my view, the way I read the Bible, it says that Satan, and by way of the Antichrist, will exercise dominion over the entire earth. He will do it, and the church will suffer persecution. So if we think that you know, we're going to make a permanent change and the United States is going to be here for another 100 years, that's not going to happen. But what I want to do with my show is to wake up as many people as possible, tell them what's going to happen so that they can prepare. Because the Bible doesn't say anything about you can't use self-defense. Matter of fact, it expects us. Jesus Christ said, go buy yourself a sword, because you're going to need it. You can protect your family. You can protect your friends and your neighbors. And I think that that's what you and I want to do. Because
absolutely, brother.
It's a tyrannical government, and they are way out of control. They are way out of control.
You know what? All we know is what was leaked to the public. I can't even fathom what's going on behind the scenes with this government, especially now with this sack of garbage in the White House. Him and his tyrannical administration. They have taken it to a whole new level. That son of a bitch, when he put that symbol on his plane to fly around the country and run for president, without the American flag, that cockroach, and he's a cockroach.
Yeah, how long did it take him to start wearing an American flag on his lapel? How long did it take him? Yeah, he never saluted. I mean, he did the crotch grab. I remember that famous picture. He's doing the crotch grab while everybody else is holding their hands over their heart. Son of a bitch.
He's a piece of shit. And how dare him? He spits in the face of our military personnel on a daily basis.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. When this episode gets published, people are going to be able to click this link right here, and they'll see how I talk about how he disrespects the United States military. Leon Panetta is the first Secretary of Defense in the history of this nation to force Marines to disarm before he walked into a room. And that is just a slap in the face. And these jerk-offs, I don't know who they are, that people are watching here on my screen right now. They were supposed to be Marines from the 8th and I Barracks from Bravo Company. But you can see as you watch this video that they are nothing of the kind. I've had Marines from all over the world respond to that video, and 9 out of 10 say that those aren't Marines. And I've only had a couple say that they were actually there. But then when I asked them to provide proof, of course, they disappeared.
Did you see when this piece of garbage got inaugurated for the second time, and only God knows how that happened, when he had the Marines walk down Pennsylvania Avenue, did you take a good look at the M1 rifles?
Right. That's the episode that I'm talking about right here. Matter of fact, we broke it on my good friend Pete Santilli's show, where the bolts from their rifles were removed.
They were taken out.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
No, and Obama's standing there behind 6-inch bulletproof glass. You know, since when? You know, does the commander-in-chief fear his military so much that he can't trust the people that are supposed to be guarding him? You know, that's never happened before.
They have been collecting data for probably a long, probably during the Bush years, underneath the that piece of shit act that was passed, the Patriot Act.
Yeah.
That is garbage. Did you know that they can get a secret warrant issued by the Supreme Court to come into your house? And that was just on Fox News last. Again, I'm not a fan of Fox News, but I was taking a little bit of a break after doing some shooting. I worked the fireworks last night, and then I came home. Stossel was on, and he had these people from, I believe it was from Idaho, where the FBI secured secret warrants signed off by the Supreme Court to go in and remove hard drives and replace them, download all their stuff. They had over 300 and some pictures of the inside of this guy's house, and they didn't even know that they were inside there, and they did it underneath the Patriot Act. Can you imagine that?
Well, the Patriot Act is nothing of the kind. I don't even think that most of the people that signed it or signed it into law read it before they did, because it was just a knee-jerk reaction. And I'll tell you what I think. I think that if you're in charge of creating laws for this country and you don't even bother to take the time to read it, that is negligence. It's a breach of your oath, and it's coming this close to being treason. Because I mean, I just don't understand how somebody could vote for something and not even know what it says. Even Nancy Pelosi says.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it, away from the fog of the controversy.
Well, that's just bullshit.
The more time that we wait for a political solution, the more time they have to spend our money on bullets, equipment, and other means of fighting against the U.S. population. And brother, look at the DHS. Janet Napolitano, that lesbian piece of garbage. She has been buying up 2.2 billion rounds of ammo. And you know what? I don't know what they're buying now, because there hasn't been too much going on there.
Oh, they've got 7,500 MRAPs, another 7,500 of those personal protection devices that normally would be called fully automatic assault weapons. So yeah, they know what's coming. They're arming weathermen, for God's sake, sending some of these bullets and sending people from NOAA and the National Weather Service to learn how to use these rifles. And now they're arming the IRS too. How about that? Not only can they slap you in jail for not providing a receipt, they can shoot your ass before they do, and then claim some kind of protection under some kind of law. Because I don't recall Lon Horiuchi ever being so much as disciplined after he shot Vicki Weaver in the face on Ruby Ridge. She was holding her baby in her arms. And
you know what happened down at Waco?
Yeah, and you know who was responsible for that? You know who was there? Lon Horiuchi. They took him right from Ruby Ridge and sent him to Waco so that he could murder more children. And he's never faced any kind of disciplinary action whatsoever. Now,
and here we got. I have an article here as well. I'm not a fan of. I strongly believe in Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, brother. My question
yes, sir.
The question I put out a little earlier today is: how can you find love in another man's ass? How can you find love in the old animal? Brother, I'm still. That just absolutely boggles one.
I don't know, brother. I've showered with a lot of Marines, and not once did I ever look at some guy's hairy ass and say, "Ooh, I gotta have some of that." Oh, yeah.
I'm telling you, I was up in New York in 2009. I was saying a little earlier, and for New Year's Eve, I had a great time. The bar was packed. Great time. I went up. My family, my wife went up. and friends from where she works and some of my friends. We stayed in Koreatown, went to this bar in Hell's Kitchen. It was a great time. Really good time. Until the ball until they dropped the ball. Well, I tell you what, I never saw two men kiss before like that in my life.
Oh.
Right in front of me, and I'm telling you, brother, I almost lost my mind. I was like at the top of my lungs yelling, like, "What the F are you? What the F is this?"
Well, yeah, I imagine you would. I would myself. Let me ask you a question, Chief. We've been swapping spit for a while here. Now let's get down to some business. What are you planning to do in Washington D.C.? What does Chief Mark Kessler want to tell the federal government? How are you going to do it?
This is how it all started. All right, that lying sack of shit, Mike Zulu, who pretended to be a true law enforcement officer with full arrest powers, the whole 9 yards, until I found out who he really was. I attended the CSPOA meeting out in Missouri. This Mike Zulu guy from Arpaio's office comes out, and he's representing the sheriff's department from Arizona, all right? Now, he's pretending to be a true law enforcement officer, and I drunk the Kool-Aid. That's my own fault. I drunk the Kool-Aid. So Mike comes out to me and says, "Hey, will you support me on this? Will you rally the troops for me? Can you get law enforcement behind this? We want to bring this evidence on this birther issue to Congress." I said, "Absolutely, I'll help you. So, I'll do whatever I can for you." Well, I tell you what, I went to law enforcement, patriot groups, militia groups, you name it, and I had a massive amount of people respond. Like, they went crazy. Like, they were, and I put out there that only law enforcement could carry a firearm into the District of Columbia. The District of Columbia is like its own little nation.
Well, yeah, the Constitution does not apply in the District of Columbia. That's why everybody, says, we got to press for our Second Amendment rights in the District of Columbia. Well, the Second Amendment doesn't apply in the District of Columbia. It's like a little corporation. Actually, some people say, and with good reason, that it's even foreign owned. It's a 10 square mile sovereign little section, kind of like Vatican City. The Constitution does not apply. Congress makes the laws in the District of Columbia. In fact, I think it was the 23rd Amendment. Before the 23rd Amendment, the people in the District of Columbia, the citizens of the United States, did not even have a representative in Congress. So, that's how the District of Columbia is separate and different from the United States. So, please continue.
But this is how it all started, all right? So I get overwhelming response. Overwhelming! I'm talking people went crazy over this. And I said, if you plan on going into Washington, D.C., don't be armed. If you plan on being armed, then you need to stay over in the Virginia side. Don't come in. Just stay over there and you can support us that way. All right? We were going to take, law enforcement was going to take, and patriot groups are going to take this such damaging evidence that Mike Zulu compiled. And let me tell you, Mike Zulu could not investigate a flat tire, as I come to find out later on in life. So that's where it all started. And then on my one radio show, they had Don Jeffrey, who was Mike Zulu's partner. I think he was a meter maid in Jersey for 20 years. He called into my show and kind of threw me under the bus about this whole thing. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute here. I said, you guys asked me to help you guys out, and I stated that only law enforcement can carry a firearm.
Right. I think that whole thing came about as a result of the whole firearm issue. I think that Don Jeffrey and everybody else was under the impression, from what I was actually listening to that show, so I heard what he said. Yeah, I think that they were under the impression that you were using the cold case posse to support like an Adam Kokesh type thing, an armed type march. I think that was a big miscommunication.
Yeah, maybe that's what they thought, but I mean, I knew what I was doing, and maybe the singles got crossed or whatever. But since then, I was contacted by a individual who gave me I'm telling you, brother, I have that much documentation that was emailed to me of one of the members, an ex-member of the cold case posse. It's a fake fraud, phony piece of sack of shit, and they made a mockery out of our country.
Okay.
It's like Zulu, they have made a mockery out of this country.
But the evidence that they acquired has got you convinced that President Obama does not belong there, right?
Absolutely, I'll agree to that. Not that the evidence that they got. I'll agree that they had shown a birth certificate on a digital format. The only one who actually has, in my true belief, is the only one who has great evidence, outstanding evidence, is Orly Tates. She's an attorney and a doctor, and she has been fighting in the court system. She's not just running her gums, she's actually doing. And I had her on my show, I think it was last week. She had filed suit after suit against Obama, Pelosi, Feinstein, you name it, about Obama's inability or eligibility. Apparently she has really good stuff. She wants to meet sometime in the future. Hopefully the next couple of weeks she's going to be in Philly, so I'll have to go down and I want to see what she has.
Yeah, I would like to see any of this be allowed into a court of law.
Well, she has brought it into a court of law, brother.
Well, I mean, yeah, and it's usually been, summarily dismissed. What I meant was I want to see it come to trial, because, if this ever comes before a jury, if the evidence that the cold case posse and Orly Tates and others have collected ever gets before a jury, from the birth certificate to the fake social security number that scumbag's been using all these years. Who the hell is Harry J. Bennell? That's what I want to know. Apparently some guy that died back in 1890 or was born, yeah, I think he died in 1890. But that was the birth certificate or the social security number that Obama has been using. And he's just so full of lies from top to bottom. He's got Muslim Brotherhood infesting the government, and you see what they do overseas right now, as 17 million Egyptians are taking to the streets protesting against the Muslim government or Muslim Brotherhood government that's been instituted by Mohammed Morsi. We're sending in Marines for crowd control. Bullshit. That is bullshit. That is not the mission of the United States Marine Corps.
You know what Lady Gaga has done? She changed the words of our national anthem to "Land of the Free, Home of the Gay."
Home of the Gay. Yeah.
What a piece of shit.
Yeah, well, she needs to get back into her egg.
Let me get back to something else here real quick.
Yeah, so what are we going to do in Washington?
Well, the overwhelming response was absolutely phenomenal. I've been getting calls from patriot groups all over the country. They want to do something.
I know they do. I've seen it. Everybody is pissed.
Brother, I'm telling you, they're dying to do something. They really, really want to do something. But there's a fine line I won't cross. All right? I'm not about to start a all-out anarchy shooting war in the District of Columbia. All right? Now, I teamed up with this girl. Her name is Kathy Moore. And she gave me a plan. She submitted a plan to me, and I posted it out on Facebook to get some feedback on it. And it had where her plan was that the first wave of patriots and patriot groups, law enforcement, etc., to go into Washington. They wanted to block off the city with tractor trailers and basically hold everybody hostage until they do something. Either they resign or they fix something.
Right.
I had a little problem with that. Her second part of the plan was to have a huge armed populace to come in if the D.C. or DHS has started to fire on the American people, which I highly doubt that our own government would fire on American citizens. That's just my theory, because, brother, you know, as I know, that if they did that, all bets are off.
Well, I know that members of the active duty military, Marines, Navy, Army, Air Force, National Guard, are going to have a serious problem firing on Americans. That's why they've got foreign troops training in this country.
Well, even if the foreign troop, brother, they don't have enough firepower to outgun the American people.
Yeah, I've done I've done a little bit of research on what can happen to a commanding officer that orders his troops to fire on American citizens. That can be considered treason. And according to the Uniform Code of Military Justice, then the Fifth Amendment, now that they've declared the United States a battlefield, that commander's command can be terminated with extreme prejudice. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you. Well, there's going to be other things. If they do that, brother, the shit, it's about. That's it, man. Shit's going to hit. Shit will hit the fan. I can tell you that. But I revised the plan. All right, I took out the part where the armed citizens blocking off, with tractor trailers circling Washington D.C. or nobody gets in, nobody gets out, the whole 9 yards. I took that out of the plan. I revised it, and I put that back on Facebook to get some feedback. The date we're looking at would be the earliest date because of the when they're in session would be in September. Because actually, you actually sent me
the congressional recess calendar, yeah.
Yeah, you sent me their schedule. So, the earliest date that I came up with, and I sent it to Kathy, would be I think September. I think it was the 9th, somewhere around there, where they would actually be in there. But she wants to stay for a week. I truly believe in trying to do this as peaceful as possible. Are they going to listen? They're not going to listen. You know that, and I know.
Well, I don't know, because if you look at what happened with Glenn Beck's Take Back America rally, they had over 1 million people down there, and that wasn't nearly as important as what it is now. The level of awareness wasn't nearly what it is now. Here's my plan. This is what I would like to see happen. I would like to see anywhere from 1 to 10 million patriots descend on Washington, D.C. I want people to go to their own representatives and senators' office and go in there and just sit down. Refuse to leave until they do something. Impeach the son of a bitch that's in the White House right now. Put 1 million people around the White House, another 1 million people around Congress. They can't ignore us. The mainstream media would be going apeshit. They wouldn't know whether to shit or go blind. You get 3 or 4 million people in Washington, D.C., and you make them stay there for a week. When look at what happened when Glenn Beck was there for a couple of hours. The Tea Party swept the elections. You put a bunch of patriots in Washington, D.C. for a week, demanding that Obama leave, and we'll see some change.
I think you're right on that, brother. You know what? That's something I would support. I would support that. As peaceful as possible. Not have a armed bunch of maniacs marching into the Capitol, firing shots off. I'm not.
Absolutely.
I do encourage law enforcement. I would encourage because hey, I'm a huge pro-gun guy. I go out shooting as much as possible almost every day. Now, I encourage true constitutional police officers, law enforcement, sheriffs, whoever they may be, as long as they're sworn law enforcement, to carry a firearm, because I'm going to carry a gun. And that's just because I can, because I'm a cop.
Right, and I encourage you to do so. Because, I've got my head on a swivel every single day. I know that you're getting death threats. I mean, if I'm getting them, you got to be getting them. But this one particular scumbag tweeted that he was going to rape my wife. So I'm got my head on a swivel. The only time I'm not armed is when I'm here at the hospital with my wife. And the only reason then is because guns aren't allowed in the hospital. But, something's got to be done. And we got to take it to them. We got to let them know that we're mad as hell and we're just not going to take it anymore. And
that I would definitely support. I had a real problem with the whole, blocking off D.C. with tractors and trailers where nobody goes in, nobody goes out. That's almost like construed it as an act of war, or towards the government, and then the government does, and then you'll see, I could see DHS coming, and that could turn real ugly, real fast. A lot of people can get hurt and killed, and I know I'm gonna get hit with this. When do you draw the line? When are you ready to sacrifice? I've been ready to sacrifice my life if need be. I don't have a problem doing that, but I'm not ready to sacrifice 1 million people.
After having spoken with Chief Kessler on several occasions now, I'm convinced that even though he's an abrasive personality, he's someone that I can count on. When this man gives me his word, I believe it. You know, sometimes a Norman Schwarzkopf is called for. And sometimes you need a mean bastard like Chesty Puller to call the shots. And as far as I'm concerned, in this instance, Chief Kessler is my Chesty Puller, because he's a mean bastard. And that's exactly what we need to take this fight right to the enemy. And we don't need to do it armed. There are going to be law enforcement officers in our formation who will be armed, but they will be armed in accordance with their duties. They're not going to be carrying shotguns or semi-automatic rifles. They're just simply going to have their sidearms, and they will be in uniform. That is completely legal in the District of Columbia. What we intend to do, as far as we've got it planned out so far, is have 3 separate formations. One is going to be tasked with going to the offices of their own legislators in Congress, senators, representatives. Each person is going to be armed with the results of the cold case Posse's investigation, proving that Barack Hussein Obama is not now and never has been eligible for the office of President of the United States. We're going to carry other evidence that indicts Obama on charges, high crimes and misdemeanors, including the murder, the extrajudicial murder of American citizens, just because he says they're a bad guy. Well, the Fifth Amendment says that no person will be deprived of life, liberty, or property without the benefit of a trial. Barack Obama cannot sign a piece of paper and order the murder of an American citizen. And anybody that says that he can, like old Lindsey Graham, can bite my ass. By the way, Lindsey Graham is coming up against Nancy Mace in the next election. Nancy's a friend of mine down in South Carolina. And the Truth is Viral is throwing its support behind Nancy. We don't need a neocon like Lindsey Graham tearing apart our Constitution, helping Barack Obama in every way that he can. So that's what the first formation is going to do. They're going to go to their elected representatives and they're going to sit in their offices until they look at this information, until they agree to do something. And that something is the immediate removal of Barack Hussein Obama from the presidency of the United States. I want him impeached. I want criminal prosecutions brought against him and his criminal attorney general, Eric Holder, who, by the way, has been in contempt of Congress for almost a year now. If either you or I were in contempt of Congress, we'd be sitting in a jail cell until we told them what they want to know. So we'll have a group of people outside Congress with signs, cardboard cutouts of AR-15s. And these signs are going to say, "We came unarmed this time." These people need to know how serious this is. They are destroying our country, and there are patriots that will not allow it. Not as long as we draw a breath, and I'm one of them. And a third formation will be surrounding the White House. I want that son of a bitch Obama to know that he's under siege. Now we can do this. Look at what happened in Egypt. The people rose up and they got rid of the Muslim Brotherhood government that was imposed on them by the Obama administration. Don't believe for a second that Mohammed Morsi was democratically elected. That was a coup. And it was instigated by Barack Hussein Obama so that he could put in his Muslim Brotherhood scumbag buddies all across northern Africa. And now he's doing the same thing in Syria. The man is arming, training, and providing supplies to al-Qaeda terrorists that are beheading Christians. They're beheading Shia Muslims. They're beheading Sufi Muslims. They're beheading anybody else that is not an al-Qaeda terrorist. Even little kids. That's the kind of bullshit that we're going to stop. I need your help to do it. When we go to this march in Washington, D.C. on September 9th, I'm going to be there right next to Chief Kessler, if I can raise enough money to go. So what I need you to do is go to bobpowell.blogspot.com and hit one of the two PayPal buttons. You can give me a one-time donation, or you can subscribe for as little as $1 a month and help support this fight for freedom, to regain our republic and our liberty from the usurpers that have taken it away. Because whether you realize it or not, we are in a cage. Maybe a gilded cage, but we are not free. And the government knows how pissed off we are. Why do you think they've bought 2 billion rounds of ammunition? Why do you think they're arming weathermen and the IRS? Why do you think they've bought 7,500 MRAPs, another 7,500 personal protection devices that normal people know as fully automatic assault weapons? They're getting ready for massive civil unrest because they know that their time is short. They have no idea how short their time is. Whatever they can buy, I guarantee you they're already outgunned. There are 100 million gun owners in this country. They can't kill us all. Even if you can't afford to support the Truth is Viral in this march financially, please share this video everywhere you can. Put it on Twitter, put it on Facebook, put it on Reddit, stumble upon it. You know, there's all kinds of crazy ways that you can share it. We need to create awareness so that people know what's going on, so that people can join us as we fight and stand and raise with one voice the cry, we are mad as hell, and we're not going to take it anymore. Congress needs to understand that they are our servants, not the other way around. And they're not doing their damn jobs. And before they get put on the terrorist side of the ledger, the traitorous side of the ledger, they need to stand up and do what's right, or we're going to come for them. Now, that's not a threat. It's a warning. Because I see, even on mainstream media sites, how angry the American people are. A recent poll shows that 30% or 29% of the American public believes that a revolution is the only way to regain our freedoms. I don't want it to come to that. I don't want to turn my country into a Syria or an Iraq, as seen here in this clip from Gray State. All you people that are calling for violent revolution need to remember those images because they're accurate. That is exactly what's going to happen. You and your family, your friends and neighbors are going to be on your knees, and you're going to get a bullet in the back of the head unless we stand up and do what's right. Now, with our voices. Because if the time ever does come when a violent revolution happens, it's going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be a freaking nightmare. People that call for a violent revolution don't understand this. They've grown up on Xbox, playing Call of Duty, and any number of first-person shooters where when they get killed, they respawn. Well, that's not real life. In real life, people die. And I'm doing my best to avoid that. So please, support The Truth is Viral. Support our efforts, support Chief Kessler as we go and tell our representatives, as we present them with a redress of our grievances, that they have lost their legitimacy. Only 9% of the people in the United States approve of the job Congress is doing. It boggles my mind. Who in the hell keeps on sending these ineffectual sons of bitches back to Congress? I guess everybody just thinks, oh, it's somebody else's senator that's the problem. It's somebody else's representative. It's not somebody else's representative. It's your representative. It's your senator that's the problem because they are not listening to the will of the people. We need to shake them up a little bit. Wake them up out of their honey boo-boo coma before the tree of liberty has to be refreshed with the blood of patriots and tyrants. Thank you for watching The Truth is Viral. My name is Bob Powell, and as always, God bless, Semper Fi, and Oorah.